Okay, hello everyone. Welcome and happy Friday evening to everyone here. My name is Jenny. I'm one of the co-owners of Mysterious Galaxy, and I will be your tour guide. Host is too strong of a word, but I will be your tour guide tonight for our event with Renée Ahdieh and Nicola Yoon. And we're so excited for this event. So excited. First, I'm going to run through Crowdcast really quick, give you, point in every direction, things you need to know, and then I will be introducing our lovely authors and then making my exit, and they will have a lovely conversation, and I will be back to help with the question and answer when we get there. Now, to the right, I can see many people have already found the comments section and are so excited for tonight's event. I can see that there. Please feel free to share any love for our authors that you have. Below me, this little green button, this is a very important button. This is what you hit to go and get your copy of The Righteous, as well as a signed bookplate and a very pretty pin. I am a sucker for pins. If you have not seen what it looks like, go to the website. You can see it. It's really nice. And below that, you will see Ask a Question. That's where you can share any of your questions for our authors, and that's where we'll be pulling from later in the event. And please feel free also, when you ask a question, you can see you will have a little thumbs up button that you can press. So if somebody already asked the question that you really want to hear answered, you just hit that little thumbs up and it moves it to the top of the list. And that way we make sure to answer the most important things first. Now, without further ado, let's introduce our authors. Tonight, again, we are celebrating the release of The Righteous, the third book in the beautiful quartet. And Renée Ahdieh is a graduate. That was a really awkward pause on myself. But Renée is a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And in her spare time, she likes to dance salsa and collect shoes. She's passionate about all kinds of curry, rescue dogs, and college basketball. I'm also a huge college basketball fan. Just a side note. The first few years of her life were spent.
We're fine. As long as you're not a fan of Duke, we're fine.
So... No, I'm a UCLA fan.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm really excited about this year. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have said anything, but it's a brighter year than it's been in a long time. Well, the first few years of Renée's life were spent in a high-rise in South Korea. Consequently, Renée enjoys having her head in the clouds, and her and her family live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and is the #1 New York Times and internationally best-selling author of the Wrath and the Dawn series, The Flame and the Mist series, and of course, the beautiful Quartet. And I just must say, maybe a week ago, we were putting together a care package for a customer, which is kind of, we pick books, and this care package customer was looking for a book about vampires, and I quote, one of our booksellers said, "Most certainly the beautiful, wow, yes, everything I should have had when I was 15." The care package was for a 15-year-old. Sobbing, crying emojis. So huge fans of this quartet at Mysterious Galaxy. So very excited about that. And joining Renée, we have Nicola Yoon. She's the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Instructions for Dancing, Everything, Everything. The Sun is Also a Star, and co-author of Blackout. She's a National Book Award finalist, a Michael L. Printz Honor Book recipient, and a Coretta Scott King New Talent Award winner. 2 of her novels have been made into major motion pictures. She's also the co-publisher of Joy Revolution, a Random House young adult imprint dedicated to love stories starring people of color. She grew up in Jamaica and Brooklyn and lives in Los Angeles with her husband, David Yoon, and their daughter. All right. Now that you've heard me talk far too much, I am going to make my exit and leave it to these lovely ladies, and I will see you soon. Have a great start to the event.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Renée, hello, my darling. How are you?
It's so wonderful to see your face. I feel like we have to show everybody. So when Nikki and I first started chatting about this event, we were like, okay, so how are we going to change it up in this time of like Zoom and Crowdcast sort of like, so we have a Korean food spread here. because
Feast,
we were
like a
wanting to
feast.
do like an OG mukbang. So my mom is Korean, and as we were discussing before, David, Nikki's wonderful husband, is also Korean. So we were like, let's do an OG mukbang, and we're gonna have some Korean food, and we're gonna chat, and we're gonna pretend like we're actually hanging out and eating delicious food together in person,
like we would be normally if this was
like
the normal time.
if we were both on the West Coast together. So this is what we're gonna do. This could be, I think it's going to go great, but there's also probably going to be food in my teeth, and I know everyone here is going to forget.
Please, and you also tell us in the chat if there's food in our teeth, you guys. Come on.
Exactly.
Although I guess we can see it.
And that's what friends do. You're going to let me know if there's food in my teeth. And I am so thrilled to get to do this event with Nikki. Every time I hang out with Nikki, I remember blowing up her phone the first time that I read an arc of The Sun Is Also a Star.
I do remember that.
I was so fortunate to get to debut with Nikki back in 2015 with Everything, which I loved and I thought was beautiful. But for me, The Sun Is Also a Star was such a special book because the way that she depicted the Korean immigrant experience was for me a masterclass in somebody writing a story that, like, everybody loves to talk about, stay in your lane and write from your own perspective. And I always get it raises my hackles whenever I hear that because, it's not something I personally believe. I've obviously written, my first series was based in ancient Persia, fantasy ancient Persia. My second series was a fantasy feudal Japan. And now I'm writing vampires in 1872 New Orleans. But the way that Nikki handled the Korean immigrant experience in The Sun Is Also a Star spoke to me so deeply. I stayed up until 4:00 in the morning reading the arc of The Sun Is Also a Star. And I was so moved and I cried so hard that I just blew up her phone, which would have been like 1 in the morning and like on the West Coast. And I just didn't even care. And I was like crying. And my husband was like, well, are you still awake? And I was like, it's so good. I love it.
You are so sweet. And I remember very clearly meeting you in 2015 and reading The Wrath on the Dawn and going, how is this woman doing that? First of all, your language is so beautiful just at the sentence level. Like you're one of those writers that every time I go, God damn it, how is she doing that? Do you know what I mean? When you get that like writer envy, that is how I feel when I read your books. And also all of them have consistently made me hungry, which is just like ridiculous. Like you're so good with the food.
I thank you very much. This is something I pride myself on very much. I do love it when my friends text me and they're like, I hate you because I'm
starving.
Hungry. And I'm like,
it's really just quite a talent. But I mean, you are a beautiful writer. You know this. You know that I think this.
Thank you so much, well, like this is what it should be. Everybody, we should all be sitting here raising each other up and doing mega love fest. And this is why I'm so excited about getting to see everybody in the future. And I'm so thrilled about you and David's your imprint. I'm so excited about it. So there's just so much good stuff coming our way. So yeah.
Yeah, and eventually we'll be out of this nonsense and we'll be together in person. So tell me what you're eating.
Okay, so what I have here, and then you got to do the same thing. I have the ubiquitous, because we're doing Korean food, ubiquitous rice.
Yes.
And then the kimchi as well, because again, you can without rice and kimchi.
Right, got my kimchi,
I have mandu right here, and I am fried mandu. And then because my mom would be mad at me because there's not really any vegetables here, I was like, edamame. So edamame. And then I have one of my favorite Korean street foods. This is tteokbokki.
Oh yeah, I love tteokbokki.
It's Korean rice cakes, and they cook it in this ultra spicy, like hot sauce sort of thing. And it's got it's odeng. It's like fish cake basically. Yeah. And this is kimari, which is it's like deep fried. It's almost like a sushi roll. It's wrapped in seaweed, and it's got like usually meat and rice in the center of it. And also because it's not street food without cheese on it, it's got melted cheese. It's been sitting here for a while, so it'll be like a cheesecake. But it's gonna be good.
I love the melted cheese and everything with like the street food versions. It's everywhere.
This is so good. And what do you have? What have you got here?
Let's see. Well, I've got my rice, and I've got kimchi, of course, because
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing? Right. And then I've got lotus root, which I love because it's sweet and crunchy and my favorite. And then let's see, my main dish is, and I'm gonna mess with the pronunciation, but this unde gojorim, which is fish and kimchi and like scallions everywhere, and it's really spicy. It's from my favorite Korean place in all of LA.
Which one is your favorite Korean place in LA? Because I need to take note of this. One.
Oh God, it just went out. David, I'll ask David to remind me the name of the place.
No, yeah. I'm honestly just taking note of it. So the next time I'm in LA, I can be like, David and Nikki, please tell me, you take me to this restaurant.
Yeah, I will take you, not tell you. Chosun galbi. God, my poor brain. It's like Friday night. Oh, and I have whiskey, which is not particularly Korean, but
actually, false. Whiskey is very Korean.
Is it?
With your food, yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. All right. So
whiskey or soju or anything.
Yeah, soju usually.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Koreans. We joke that Koreans are kind of like the Irish people of East Asia, because they'll drink with the best of people, and they'll drink, and they'll sing, and they'll get really happy, and they'll get really sloppy too when they're drinking. So Koreans can put away some alcohol.
Oh, I have like all of Dave's side of the family, which is now, like my family. We spend Christmases. Oh my God, the amount of alcohol consumed in that house.
Have they ever made you taste something called makgeolli? Okay, so
no, what is that?
This is like really like, this is like the ajushi. And I think it's really funny. So I'm going to say something too. And I don't know if David's in the room too, because what you're eating is wonderful to me, because it's the sort of stuff that I love to eat now. And the stuff that I used to make fun of my mom for eating, because it's what I would call like ajuma food. You're eating like fish, like soup essentially. And this is what I'm loving to eat now. This like really spicy, like tofu or stew sort of stuff that I never wanted to eat when I was a kid, because I just wanted to eat like barbecue. The Korean,
right? Because it's like the intro food. It's like
right. Yeah. It's like what the cool kids are eating, but now you're like, I'm gonna get this fish soup at the Korean place that like real Koreans are eating, right?
It's so delicious,
so good, and it's so comforting and warm and spicy and great. But yeah, so makgeolli is like a rice wine, and they traditionally like serve it in like little bowls, and it looks kind of like watered down like milk a little bit, and they drink it in these bowls, and it's like old school, like old Korean men will get really wasted on this. Like,
really? I feel like I've been cheated. I need this.
You need to try that. And I feel like David should you up so that you can.
I know, David. I will tell him. I will tell him.
People are on the side. Someone's like, as a half Korean, I can confirm the drinking. Ha ha ha.
Except we get the Asian blush. My husband does not get the Asian blush, but my sister-in-law absolutely does. Unless she takes she takes some allergy medicine, because it's basically an allergic reaction.
I've heard that people have to do
that. And Tiffany's saying, I love lotus root. It's so delicious.
Lotus root is so good. And it's like really, really easy to cook at home too. Like if you get it, like if you, I like to soak it first. If you get the canned version, that's not like, we'll discuss recipes, because I have a really good do at home with it.
We should do a show. We should do a whole show.
Should.
I was like watching. When we were talking about doing mukbang, I started like watching some videos, and the amount of food consumed in those videos, I was like, listen, Renee, I love you, but I cannot.
I can't do that. I don't understand. Some of these girls that do this, that make like a lot of money doing this, they weigh 100 pounds dripping wet, and
they're so tiny.
A table of food, and they'll just sit here and eat it. And I'm like,
what are you doing? How are you doing this?
I don't understand. I don't understand what's happening here at all. I don't understand like what their metabolism is. I don't understand.
I wish I had it, but I do not.
I don't understand how they don't have indigestion, but I think that's because I'm getting to be on the wrong side of, like, I'm clearly on the wrong side of 35. I'm like, don't you need like Tums?
Listen, we were talking about this. My husband and I were talking about this. Older means wiser. We need to stop putting ourselves down for getting older, because I know things now that 20-year-old Nikki did not know.
And my 30s have been infinitely better than my 20s. So everybody out there listening, Your 30s are much better. They really are.
Right. It gets really great, and your tolerance for nonsense, it like goes away. You're just like, I'm not dealing with nonsense, and I'm just gonna go over here and be happy. And happy is great.
Happy is great.
Yeah. All right, Renee, I'm gonna talk about your book at some point.
Oh yeah, this is kind of running theme through all of my events this week. We're mostly talking about food at the beginning, and then we're just hanging out, which is kind of like, I kind of love this though. I feel like this is what we are all wanting to do. We are all just wanting to hang out. And I feel like the best book events too, especially when we're doing them in person, have the feel of just kind of like hanging out. So we are going to talk about books. I swear, for everybody who's talking about books, we are going to.
Well, okay. Let's just come at it like sideways, because I love vampires and you love vampires. I love the Fae and you love the Fae. So talk about like the first book, right? Like bringing back vampires after this like hiatus. Like what made you want to do it? Then we can argue about vampires versus werewolves, because there's clearly a correct choice, and
obviously
you better make it. So talk to me.
Well, so the thing for me is like, and I realize I'm setting up a really bad joke here, a dad joke. For me, vampires never died.
That is such a dad joke. I'm gonna tell my kid. She's like, oh.
But I've always loved vampires, and I loved vampires since I was 12 years old, and I stole my father's copy of Anne Rice's Queen of the Damned because he told me I couldn't read it, which was a huge mistake. I don't know why.
Why would you?
Exactly. Yeah. So I fell in love with it, and I distinctly remember it being the book that sort of like made me want to be a writer, because up until that point I'd been a really, really voracious reader. But this was a book that sort of was like, it transported me. And I remember being sort of hypnotized by the way that she wrote this book. And I just completely lost track of time. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself as I read this book, like under the covers with like a flashlight so no one would catch me, thinking to myself, I want to do this. I don't know how.
How old were you?
12. And I was 12. I was like, I don't know how she did this, but I would love to be able to do this. And then whenever, Twilight and all that stuff sort of hit, and I just became, again, like reinvigorated in my love for all things like Gothic fiction, all things vampires, werewolves, fae, because I read, after reading Anne Rice's stuff, I read all of her witching hour stuff, all of that. I was really deeply immersed. And then I read like all of Holly Black's stuff at that time too. So I was
Holly,
deeply into all of that. And then I sort of took a step back at that time, and I had the original idea for The Beautiful in the back of my mind, because I'm sure you kind of have this sentiment as well. Like, man, it would be really cool if I could write a book, or if there were books that had vampires and werewolves and fae that were coming from a non-Western perspective, because a lot of these fae books and vampire books are largely from a very Western perspective. I mean, I grew up loving Lord of the Rings, and a lot of that mythology was very deeply entrenched in sort of like Welsh folklore. And it was great, but like we also throughout the world, and in Africa and East Asia and South Asia, in Central and South America, we also have really cool fantasy creatures that
so many stories, right?
So many cool stories that are also about blood drinking demons. And what if somebody sort of like reached into that lore and wrote some stories about that? But then also grounded it from a place that was familiar and accessible to a Western audience. And for me, that really centered in New Orleans, because New Orleans is so synonymous with vampires. And I just feel like New Orleans is also a city where it's
like sumptuous and like mysterious and just beautiful. Yeah,
absolutely. And the veil between worlds there, to me, has always felt very, very thin. And the great thing about New Orleans as well is it's been, for better or worse, because it was a port in the transatlantic slave trade, for better or worse, it has been a place of cultural, it's been an amalgamation of many different cultures. And because of that amalgamation of many different cultures, it has formed a culture unique unto itself. Yeah. And I felt like it was a place where many of these stories could then blend to form it was a great sort of jumping off point to
you can just make anything. Like New Orleans is inspiring in that way, right? Because it's got everything and like nothing is as you expect it to be there anyway, right?
Exactly. And then it also opens the door to discussing some things that are uncomfortable and need to be discussed, especially in books. And I welcomed it, and I really wanted to go there, and I really wanted to write a story about vampires and werewolves and fae and the occult that did bring some of these characters and these worlds.
Right. I mean, you have a little baby now too, and I have a 9-year-old. And one of the things you realize when you're a writer and you have a kid is how many of these stories just don't have kids that look like our kids, like don't have them as heroes. And here's mine.
Yeah.
Penelope. Right. Like, I mean, she wants like the vampires and the werewolves and the angels, like the sword fighting angels, right? Like the battle angels that look like her. And she should have it.
And aliens.
Yes, of course.
And zombies.
Right. Right. I mean, why not? Like everyone gets to be, right, the hero. Okay, but vampires versus werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me.
I am vampires.
Okay. I don't understand when people say werewolves.
Okay, so
explain that choice to me.
I think people who say werewolves really like the idea.
Are lying to themselves? No.
Maybe, yes. I also feel like people who say werewolves like the idea of transformation a lot, the ability to transform. Like I don't know. Like I'm really into that, and I think obviously people who really like vampires like the idea of retaining one form for all eternity. And I do
They're
think
gonna love you forever.
Huh? Yeah.
Right? You're gonna be loved forever.
It's all grounded in the type of ego you have. Maybe that's what it is. That's what we really need to explore there.
All right, that's hilarious. So someone was saying that they loved my necklace, but this was actually in Renee's book box. I love this thing. It's not actually mine because my daughter has stolen it. I'm just wearing it. She's letting me borrow it for the event.
I love that.
I never said you could borrow it.
Oh, shut up. Get away.
That's mine.
And also the mirror. And I just look at myself. Mirror on the wall. Look how beautiful this is. It's like one of the best.
You stole this from me. You never told me I could have that.
My favorite part of having a child now is the fact that we have created our own trolls. My kid is not even and he's already trolling me. Like we're going out in public, like seriously, when we're at our table, and he will troll me. This kid will side-eye me when I say stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, this is.
Okay, can I just tell you this funny story? So I was like growing out my hair like during the pandemic, right? So it was really short and I didn't love it. So then I was wearing a wig for a while. So I went out to dinner with my child and someone was like, oh, I like your hair. And I wasn't gonna talk about it being a wig. And Penny, it's a wig. That's not her real hair. It's totally a wig. And like not just quietly, but like at the top of her lungs. And I was like, I'm gonna leave this restaurant now. What is happening?
I'm finished.
And what can you say? Because she's not lying. I want her to lie.
And like somebody collect their kid. I don't know whose kid this is. Somebody please collect your kid.
It was so funny.
Oh my God. Again, really though, it's like you raised your soul and you're just like.
No, I know, but we love them so
I know,
much.
to troll them. That was what I was really looking forward to, and it really backfired. And he's not even yet. It's backfired.
I know. So, I mean, I know that like we asked this mainly of women, motherhood and writing, but I'm a girl and I have a child and like 5 jobs, and it's challenging. So, how have you found it in the last couple of years?
So it's been really interesting, and I think I love that you asked this question because I do feel like an array of emotions whenever people talk to me about being a working mom. Like you do feel like this sense of almost like defensiveness a little bit, like this, you want to protect that idea too, because you're always like, oh, did you guys get asked this question? But also I feel you need.
But it's real too, though.
Real question. We need to have these conversations so that other women, especially here, that firstly, it is very hard. It is extremely hard.
Especially at the beginning. Especially like where you are right now is very difficult. Yeah.
It's very difficult. And it's even difficult having, as you and I do, incredibly supportive, progressively minded spouses who understand and value that they need to be present, that it's expected that they share equally the responsibilities of being a parent.
Yeah.
But I think also that, we are, as the children of immigrants, there's a part of us too that still, I would venture to say about you too, knowing what I know about you, there's still a part of us that's a little bit broken too. The expectations we put on ourselves, the guilt that exists in us,
the guilt.
The guilt that exists in us, the ever-present critic that you just cannot silence in yourself. And part of the reason that we have managed to last in the industry that we've chosen for as long as we have is that sort of perfectionist, that critic we have not been able to silence. And for better or for worse, that's pushed us to succeed in this industry. But it is really hard to silence that critic in other parts of our lives, to tell ourselves, okay, it is okay to be, like I keep telling my joke to myself is good enough. Yeah. You just need to tell yourself good enough. You should child.
But it's okay to be ambitious too, right? And I think that's hard for women to tell themselves, especially when they become mothers, right? Because there's a point at which you're going, you know what? I need to do this. I need these 2 hours. And it's okay to want things. Like I want to sell books. And like, that's okay, right? Like it's okay to have that ambition, and it's not opposed to motherhood. It's in fact what makes me a better mom, right? Because I feel successful and I feel fulfilled and I'm a good mom, but it's also because I have a good career that I love, right? Like if I didn't have that, I would be less happy and therefore not as good at my job of being a mom. Does that make sense?
No, I completely. And I think irrespective of your child's like gender, whether they're a boy or a girl, or if they've not chosen a gender, they need to see their mom being a success, because it's like my son needs to see a woman being a success, so that he knows to expect that and to support that in the future. If I ever have a daughter one day, same thing. Like she needs to be able to see her mom pursuing a career outside of the house, being a success at it, and knowing that she deserves that and should expect that and should expect people to support her in that endeavor.
Yeah. And it's not even like, it's just if you decide to stay at home too, but just as long as you're doing the thing that you want and you're doing it, like the thing I always tell Penny is, just do it all out. Like just be passionate. Whatever it is you're doing, just go all in on it. And I think, and she taught me that, right? Because before I had her, I wasn't actually doing the thing I wanted. And so that's the thing that I say to her all the time is, just find the thing you love and then just do that thing.
Yeah.
All right. We're going back to your book. I feel like we're just like, all right. So I've got a few questions about the book, and then I have like more general questions. We're probably not going to get to everything.
No, it's all good.
Okay. All right. So The Righteous is told largely from Arjun and Pippa, but we also see Celine and Bastian. So what made you want to tell Arjun and Pippa's story? And how did you decide to like switch like the narratives through the series? It's so brilliant. I don't know if I've said this yet, but I love this series. I love this series. It's wonderful. Like, I mean, I think it might be my favorite, which is absurd because I love them all. But I should tell you that.
So much. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This was like it's been scary to definitely like branch out and do this, but I always had a really clear vision from the very beginning, even before I started writing this book series. And I was really largely inspired by one of my favorite genres, which is regency romance. And that's, it's like something like Bridgerton, where you have this, series that has many different books in it, and they're meant to be, sort of read in sequential order, but also each book tells a certain story and features a certain set of characters. And so if you wanted to read The Righteous on its own, having not read The Beautiful or the Damned, that would be okay. Obviously, I think you'd have a better reading experience, a richer reading experience, having read The Beautiful and the Damned.
Yeah.
But if you came in on The Righteous and you wanted to read Pippa and Arjun's story, you would be fine. The Beautiful is definitely Celine's story. The Damned is Bastian's story. And The Righteous is Pippa and Arjun's story. And the last book, The Ruined, is sort of going to be an ensemble cast of everything. And
I cannot stand it. I can't wait. I cannot.
The first and the last book were always sort of meant to be bookended by New Orleans. I've been in love with New Orleans as a city for many years. I consider it almost like a second home for me. It's a place that has inspired me. Before the pandemic, it was for most of my writing career, I would go there at least 3 or 4 times a year just to write, to eat, to listen to music.
Really? I did not know that. Yeah.
Sometimes I would just go there by myself. And I would either rent a hotel room or I'd take like one of my really good friends with me who's also really passionate about the city. And she's in the healthcare industry. And we would just go there and we would hang out for a long weekend, or we'd stay for a couple of days. And we would just eat, listen to music, wander the streets.
Well, now I want a writing retreat with you in New Orleans.
Oh,
I want that.
Absolutely.
Can I have that?
No, absolutely. All we do literally is we just listen to music. We just eat, we wander the streets. We do like fun things too. Like we'll go get like our fortunes told. I did one time, we went to a musical seance, which was just beautiful and amazing.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you about that like some other time. And wander just like even outside the quarter. One of my favorite parts of New Orleans has now become the Bywater, which is a completely, totally different district. Anyway, I can talk a lot about New Orleans.
So you, me, Saba, we're going to New Orleans.
We're absolutely doing it. I'm going to, you guys are going to be in love with the city by the end of this.
Penny was like, can I come? Yeah.
I've now forgotten the question. What was the question?
The question. Well, you actually did answer because I said, how did you decide to like make it Pippa and Arjun's story?
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you were saying that it was always the plan, right?
It was always the plan. But that being said, there is a macro narrative over all 4 of the books, and it's just that there are micro narratives sort of spun through each individual book that are all interconnected by the story that overarches everything. And I really like that about Regency romances. And I've especially fallen back in love with Regency romances over the course of the pandemic because I find them so satisfying and wonderfully escapist. And it's been really sort of gratifying to see a lot of people really, over the course of the pandemic, fall in love with Regency romance. Because
they really have. Yeah.
And it's sort of like some of my friends that I feel have been kind of sneery about it all along. They're like, I only read Pulitzer Prize winning novels or nonfiction or blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read that trashy romance novel. And then they
whatever.
Have you seen this show on Netflix?
It's so steamy. I'm just like, where have you been?
Books that I've been telling you to read, and then they're like, oh my God, I love them. And I'm like, yeah, these books are incredibly smart and written by wonderfully smart, amazing. You should read them.
People poo-poo romance and like, especially the steamy stuff. Listen to me. It is the thing that sells the most books in publishing. Like, I don't understand why people don't. Like, from a business perspective, the entire publishing industry exists on romance. That is it. And people don't know that. And why don't they know that?
I think it's not that they don't know that, it's that people don't want to admit it, and it's because people love to poo-poo things that women enjoy. It's just like a universal thing. They just love to sort of like, oh, women like this, it must suck, especially
women and teenage girls, right? That's the thing that they. Right. But listen,
they love to do it to Twilight. They're like, oh, young girls like this, it must be garbage, and that's why I'm really defensive of Twilight all the time.
But it's also.
Go ahead.
But it's also love is the thing, right? Like I don't even, whatever. You guys are knocking the thing that everyone wants. Love is the thing that makes the world go round. Everyone wants it. Literally everyone, like all sorts of different love, not just like the romantic part, right? Like it's all the kinds. And why are we knocking this? If we had more love, the world would be better. It would be fixed, in fact. So, right?
Great. I was at a dinner a couple of years ago before the pandemic. It was like a company dinner with some of my husband's friends, and this guy was engaging me. He was talking about like the merits of good movies. I put that in air quotes. So his favorite movie And I will say I do enjoy this movie. It was Gladiator, and the screenwriter for Gladiator, I love his work. It was John Logan. I think his work is brilliant, and I was agreeing with him. I think John Logan is brilliant, right? He's like, but you know, all these movies about love and blah blah blah. I think it's just so ridiculous. Gladiator is a brilliant film. It's timeless. Blah blah blah. I'm like,
but there is love in it. I don't understand.
I was. What do you think? You know, set off Maximus Decimus Aurelius. You know, you just come back at me. Tell me what do you think really got him going with that? And then he was talking about like John Wick. I was like, I want to remind you what got John Wick going.
Right.
Was it that somebody killed the dog he loved?
Yeah. It's always the motivator. Like, what else is there?
People just love to forget how important it is, how critical it is. Love and fear, the two things that motivate so much of our existence.
Right. And a lot of fear is the fear of losing love anyway, right? Like it is the thing. All right. I'm gonna go back. We'll talk about this some more. All right.
I could just talk for hours, Nikki. It's why
I know. All right. So let's see. Maybe I'll ask you a little bit of process questions because like the previous two series were duologies, right? And how is it like writing 4 books? I mean, you're on book 3, you got the book 4. Is it intimidating? Like I always find, like I write contemporary books, they're like 330 pages. Like once I get to 65,000 words, I'm like, I'm done, I'm out, right? But you guys, like you write these books that are brilliant. You have to keep us interested for this many pages over an entire series. And I have such respect for it. And I absolutely could not do it. Like, how are you doing this?
We're gluttons for punishment. Honestly, like I think contemporary books are incredibly hard. Like I don't know how y'all do it because you guys describe places and locations where you can literally have people messaging you and being like, Nikki, I've been to that place and it does not smell like that. And I'm just like, it actually doesn't take 20 steps to get to that location.
Right. Oh, listen, I've heard those.
I mean, that would stress me out a lot. That would really stress me out.
But you have to like make these worlds like entirely new ones and you have to make them make sense because like people think that fantasy is easier because you can just make whatever up, but that isn't true because you have to make the world and then you have to make the internal logic, right? Like it does not work if things don't make sense. Like if you break the logic of your world, like the whole fantasy is broken. So like it's actually really very difficult. I mean, you know this, you do this. But yeah, go ahead, talk to me. How are you doing this? Are you a magical creature?
I think with any story, like it doesn't matter if you're writing fantasy, contemporary, nonfiction even, if you really want to get your reader invested in it, I think that you have to get them to occupy the shoes of the character, whether even if you're writing a memoir, you want them. And for me, the way that I do that and the books that I really love to read do that through sensory details. And even if you're taking people to a different time and place, you need to root them in sensory details that they can completely understand. So even if it's a magical world, it can't just be that you're describing things that they see or hear. It has to be about taste. It has to be about smell. It has to be about tactile things. It's why I love to incorporate so much food into my books, because food does like double, triple, quadruple duty there. And I often will, not often, it's a point of pride for me that any food that I describe in any book that I write, I will endeavor to actually try to cook myself because
really?
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Renee, have you decided? Okay, here's an idea. I'm sure you already have it. Should you make a cookbook from all the dishes in your book?
You're not the first person.
Too late.
First person. Yeah. Like, it is something I've thought about, but like I'm not Chrissy Teigen. Like, I feel like everybody who makes a cookbook, you have to have like a really big, already like online platform presence like that.
But what about for people who just want to try? Like people who just like, I love making things, and it doesn't actually matter what it is. I just like to make things. So like anyone, and I feel like a lot of people are like that, right? And we can all just like make things with you. Like if you get on Instagram Live and say, I'm going to make this from Moth and the Dawn, I will join you and try to make it as well. I'm just saying, think about it.
I will. You know, like, what could be fun is whenever we we could go places. Maybe I'll go to like friends' houses and I'll be like, all right, we're gonna make this rice dish together. Me and Nikki. Everybody, David, come on, get in here.
I think that would work.
We're gonna make jewel rice.
Yeah, I will do it. So, you know, but going back to what you were saying about world building too, the other thing besides the sensory is like, it's about the emotion, right? And like what is actually human, like, I mean, obviously not all your characters are human, but there is like an internal emotional logic. Like, what is your motivation? Like, why are you doing this thing? And it's always all driven by like true things. And I think that's the basis of any like really good story, right? Is like, what do you want? What's really true? Because the job of a writer is to tell the truth, right?
Yes.
I mean, that is the job. That's all of it. And so it doesn't matter actually what like genre you're doing it in, right?
Well, and I feel like for what you do too, especially in the contemporary settings that you have, your settings come to life in, even though it's a different way from how like a fantasy author would bring a setting to life, I feel like it's still very, very similar, because I feel like your settings are very real and vivid to me too. Like, how do you go about constructing your settings? Because I can put together a setting from a fantasy perspective in a very, like, it has a sort of like magical, almost ethereal, like
you
almost
have great imagination though. You like, it's amazing, your imagination.
Well, thank you very much. But like, how do you endeavor to put together a contemporary setting that people could think of as being, you know, sort of mundane because it's everyday, but how do you bring it to life in a way that really evokes the imagery that really works for people and makes it not mundane and everyday? What do you try to do?
Well, you know, there's this Russian author, and whose name I'm never going to remember, but he said that a lot of writing is making things strange, right? So making the familiar strange, right? I'm never going to remember who said this, right? So like, it is about looking at everything brand new. Like, even if you've seen it a million times, it should look strange to you, and you should be able to make someone really see it, right? And I think that is, I mean, that's part of it, right? You just got to be able to look at things and really, really see them. Because I think we go through the world, there's so much all the time, right? You know this, Renee, there's like so much information, and there's your job, and there's your children, and there's your husband, and right now there's the world to worry about, right? And I think sometimes we miss it, right? We miss the thing that we're supposed to be seeing. And I don't want to miss it, right? Like, I don't want to miss it, because we only get the one shot.
I love it so much. I love that. And you know what? Like, you saying that, suddenly so much of the way that you write your books makes sense to me too. Like, that I do see that. I do see you approaching your world building from that too. That's awesome. I love that. I really,
all right. I'm gonna go on.
You know what? I'm looking at the time. We should probably open it up to questions.
Oh, questions? Okay. Yes. All right.
You can clearly see Nikki, me, and David have definitely shut down restaurants before. I can attest to this. We have shut down hotel bars before, and we make no apologies for it. So
I do not.
I don't know why you would apologize for that. I mean, we do have some questions. Although I hate
yes, ma'am.
All of these are great. I'm just going to start at the top.
Yeah.
The first question is from Estra. They asked, what is a genre you have not explored but would like to write one day?
Oh man, I definitely want to hear what Nikki has to say too. I would love to write both middle grade, and I would love to write an adult book.
I'm going to finish chewing this, and then I'll answer this question. I want to do a fantasy book. I really super want to do a fantasy book because I love them. It's my passion. Like, I mean, I read them all the time. I feel like I can't do it, but I'm going to try. So that.
Hard disagree. I like, you have my email. Send it.
And then I wrote an adult book actually, which I'm revising right now. So that's the other one I want to try. And I tried. We'll see if anyone buys it, you guys.
Very well.
Very cool. Well, let's see. The next one is really smart. So the next, well, you just answered. Would you write an adult or science fiction? Was one of the questions. So that one is covered. Who is your favorite vampire, and what is your favorite bit of vampire lore from any culture, like any version of the vampire?
Ooh, I want to hear what you have to say about this, Renee.
Oh man. Okay, so my favorite vampire is Lestat de Lioncourt from Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles. He's the brat prince. How could you not love him? Oh man. So I actually wrote about some of my favorite vampire lore in Flame in the Mist and Smoke in the Sun. There is this it's a blood drinking tree in Japanese lore called the juboko. And basically, if you touch its bark, it will sort of like consume you. And as it consumes you, all it's doing is drinking your blood. It's drinking you dry. And it was one of these things that I loved to read about. And then obviously you can tell I really have a gothic bent to the things that I enjoy. And I loved reading about all throughout these different cultures, the fact that irrespective of where you were in mythology, it seems like all different cultures have these specific demons that drink blood. And it's
because blood is life, right?
Yeah, because blood is life. Yeah.
Interesting.
I may be wrong, but I think vampires and zombies are the most like pervasive across different cultures. Where like there's lore for zombies for sure. There's like there's a version of the zombie and
right. So like that undead menace, like the unthinking, just like no, I get that.
There are ones in the blood drinking demons in both Jamaican actually and Haitian lore that are fascinating too. Do you know any like in?
I don't actually know the specifics of them at all.
Those were really
yeah.
Nicola, do you have a favorite vampire?
I mean, I love Bastion. I mean, I do. I mean, I really do. I mean, I read a lot of paranormal romance. I just like the uber vampire. I just like this idea of it's not just they will live forever and love you forever. It's this idea that you can live through the ages and like get to master your emotion and hopefully come to understand the world, right? Yeah. Like if you're doing it right. You're learning things. Right. Many times they're not doing it right? Many times they're just sort of like, I am cruel now. I feel nothing because human time means nothing to me. And it's like all very just dire. But it could go the other way. It could be that the more you learn about humanity, the more you think that we're kind of cool. It usually goes the other way.
That's the age-old question, though. Like, is there a value in life at all if you lose the temporal nature of it? That's the huge question.
Right. It's always, I mean, people say that and I go, I will live forever with my husband and my child. Like, I don't understand. This is like an easy choice to me. I adore them. I think David Yoon is the best thing on earth. I would like to stay with him forever.
I love it.
No, I totally agree. I think that one of my favorite parts of Buffy is when Spike, because he just loves humans. Like he loves human culture, kind of, and like, hates them, but also loves being on Earth and just like living it up. Which is one of my favorite parts of that character.
Yes.
Cool. The next one is, I think this one was when you both were talking about the many jobs that you have. Someone asked, other than being an author, what other jobs were you considering or are working currently?
If I could, I would be like a food critic that gets to travel. A traveling food critic. That would be a great job. I would get, because I love to travel and eat. And if I could combine those and someone could give me money, I would take that job.
I would go with Nikki. I would be Nikki's sidekick. I would carry Nikki's bags and taste all the food too.
No, just take the food, and then you could describe the food so brilliantly It'd be great.
It'll work. I'll do it. We would, I don't know that anybody could afford us in the sense that we would be eating so much food. They'd be like, what are we paying you to do? And be like, shh, just let us eat.
I know how to choose the most expensive thing on the menu without trying. Like for some reason, like I'm always there.
What are you gonna
Just
say?
like give it to me.
It'll be all good. It'll be all good. Just give it to us. It'll be fine. It'll be good. We'll stay good.
Oh. What is okay? This is for all of the love of food that we've had tonight. I do like asking this question. What is your least favorite food?
Bananas.
Bananas. Really?
No, I don't.
And like in anything, like if it's like bananas Foster in a dessert or any form of banana.
Storage cell. All right, so.
Oh yes, please.
All right. When I was growing up in Korea, so I moved to Korea when I was a couple of weeks old, and at the time in Korea, my mom is a generation that was born immediately following the Korean War, and they were a country that was extremely poor at the time. And my mom, her generation is because they were malnourished, they were very short. So they were very obsessed with having their children grow tall. And so anybody could tell my mom's generation anything about making their children tall, and they would believe it. Like any sort of like woman on the street would be like, "This is your children to make them tall." Some lady told my mother when I was really small, "If you feed your children bananas,
oh no."
And the thing is, bananas were a black market food in Korea at the time when I was really small. So you had to literally go to the black market and buy, and they were extremely expensive. My mother, thinking that this would be what made me tall, bought bushels and bushels of bananas. She would save money for bananas, and she force-fed me bananas. And so I have this sort of like really traumatic association with the flavor of bananas. Right. And so anytime I smell them, I just feel everything. So I just can't do bananas. And there was this one incident where like I was sitting, I had this I had this plane upgrade, and I was really excited because I've been flying a lot for work, and I was like, I got upgraded to business class, and I sat down. This dude sits down next to me with a banana, and he was like,
that's not a plain food. They have a very strong smell.
It's so awful that even the sound of somebody chewing on a banana upsets me. And he starts like slowly. It was like a scene out of like I don't know. It's
oh my God, Renee.
And he's doing that whole like.
Yeah, because it's regularly sticky.
He leaves the peel between us, and I was just I was it was awful. It was awful. So bananas.
And now that gentleman is no more. You killed him, didn't you?
Yeah, bananas.
He's dead.
Yeah, he was. I killed him so many times in my books. So many times. I literally wrote a character who looked like him and murdered him in a book.
Oh God, I'm never going to forget the story. So mine is okra. Do you guys know what okra is? I hate okra with such passionate intensity.
Is it the texture?
Yes, it's like snails crawling down your throat. It's disgusting. Like I cannot. It's so slimy. And in Jamaica, because I grew up in Jamaica, my grandfather loved okra, and he would just make it in everything and try to make me eat it. And it's just it's snails. I mean, and the thing is, I like escargot now. But this is like a live snail trying to crawl down your throat. It's disgusting. I hate it.
Like okra. You probably really like bananas. So now everybody who's on this call knows how to torture us. Now everybody knows.
I know, right? we have given away our weaknesses. It's terrible.
I'm sure nobody here would use that knowledge for evil.
Yes, right.
Yes. Arms, we will know. We will know.
We know exactly.
Get books sold, or not books sold, but get books signed with us with okra and bananas. We'll be like,
yeah, don't come. If you come into my line with that
you were
stuff,
at that one event.
I'm out.
All right. Well, the next one, Christine would like to know about any of your winter holiday traditions that you have either coming up or currently celebrating.
Oh,
I'm sure food must play a starring role.
Yeah.
We always do a really nice bagel breakfast the day of Christmas. We always do that. We always try to do a big like Korean New Year celebration as well. My mom is always really good about preparing all the food for that, and it's getting to the place where I need to start learning how to prepare all the food, because it's not cool. Mom has to start doing all that stuff.
Right.
But I'm gonna need to start learning how to do. I'm gonna milk that for all it's worth though, because my mother is a very wonderful Korean cook. I'm glad she's not listening to me say all these nice things about her, because we don't traditionally say nice things about each other. We just rib on each other, which is why my son is, again, I always joke my son is exactly the child I deserve, because I have
because it's you.
Anyway, so how about you, Nikki?
We do like a Jamaican breakfast on Christmas Day. So it's ackee and saltfish, which is like ackee is like the national food of Jamaica. So we always do that for breakfast with fried dumplings.
Awesome.
And Christmas Eve, we always do like this big Korean spread with like my in-laws and stuff. And so that's what we're going to do this year. Like we're like pulling it off. We're all boosted. And we're all gonna like test right before, and we're gonna try to pull this off this year. And I love Christmas, so my whole house is ridiculous, actually. Excuse me, sweetheart. Can you get Mama some water, please? Sorry. So we're gonna do the Korean Jamaican Christmas like we do every year.
That sounds wonderful.
We do huge Christmas Eve stuff with our family too, so we understand that. Estrat would like to know if either of you would ever come to New York for an in-person event.
Oh yeah. Would love to. I would love to. I'm very much looking forward to the time when it's safe to do in-person events. So I've been saying this for all of our all of the events that I've been doing this week. If you can. Be awesome. If you can, please get vaccinated so that we can make that a reality for everybody sooner rather than later. So we would. We all miss it. We all miss it so much.
What do you miss the most, Renee? I really, really miss like the infection. Like, you know how kids, when they love something, they love it so intensely. Like I love that infectious. Oh my God, I love your book. I love like watching like my author friends talk to someone whose book has meant something. I love it for myself. Like I miss that so much, and like the hugging and like just the love of books. Like, what do you miss?
Oh my gosh, I missed that so much. And I miss the sound of collective laughter filling a room. Like that sound, you can't like, there's nothing like it. Like when you're in a room full of people who love the same thing that you love, books, like what books or music or whatever it is, and you all get to share in the joy together, and your joy mingles with everybody else. Gosh, there's nothing like that. And you know, we all haven't really been able to experience that for so long. And I just know that it's going to be emotional to be able to do that. And it doesn't even have to be about like even if I get to like go to like an event for your book or something like that, just to hear that sound for the first time of people who love books together, loving it together. Oh, it's going to be great.
It's the best. Yeah.
It's the best. Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It is the best. We all hope that it starts soon. As we kind of are winding down and on this kind of note of loving everything reading and all of that, I'm going to close with a question about a book recommendation, but I'm asked a little differently. Not just what book would you recommend, but if somebody wanted to get to know you better, what book would you recommend they read?
Oh my gosh.
That is a lovely question. I like that.
What is a lovely question?
I totally stole it from, I think, Roxane Gay.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I think she asked it. That's right.
She's smart. She's a smart one.
She's super smart. She's super smart. So I actually have two. And this is not because I'm doing an event with her right now, but I will say The Sun is also and I also say Crying in G-Mart. I just read this book, Crying in G-Mart.
H-Mart.
H-Mart. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
G-Mart is by my house. Crying Crying in H Mart.
Yeah.
And The Sun is also a star. I think that those two books and in recent years have really, really spoken to me. I'll throw in one of my books, The Beautiful. I think the main character in The Beautiful, Celine, is the most like me of any character that I've ever written. So I cheated. I have 3 books. Sorry, but books. There's no such thing as too many books.
There's definitely no such thing. I actually, Selena in The Beautiful is one of my favorite characters. I think she's terrific, and I love how complicated she is. I think it's hard to pull that off, like just from a pure craft perspective. And it's funny because when you read books, like when you're a writer, you read it from like the craft brain, right? There's that part of your brain that's on, but there's just the reader part, because I think most writers are writers because they're readers. And I can read Renee's books from the craft perspective and go, how's she doing that? And try to break it down. But also that part goes away and I'm just in her books, which doesn't happen that often, honestly, because I write books, right? So it's like hard for me. So if that part turns off, I'm in a good book. Like I'm in good hands. So I always really love to read writers who... Let's do the hearts. And then I think the other book to get to know me is The Little Prince. That's my book. I read that all the time.
Cool. Okay, well, I want to thank both of you for being here and being so lovely. This has been such a wonderful conversation. It did make me very hungry, as we predicted.
Right.
I need to go get my dinner next. And also definitely go get Korean food very soon. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see.
Right.
But I'm gonna wrap it up.
I'm just saying this book is great and you guys need to get it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It's so wonderful.
A huge thank you to Jenny and to Mysterious Galaxy, and so much love to Nikki and everybody who chose to spend their Friday night with us. Thank you so much. We know that like there are a lot of virtual events going on, and
there's like fatigue.
Yeah, and it's such an honor that you are here with us tonight, and we are so excited about the future and being able to see everybody in person sometime soon. So much love to everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging
Renee
with
just
us,
did a lot
guys.
of my job for me. Thank you. I will second everything she just said. Please remember, please support our authors. The best way to support our authors, these lovely authors, is to buy their books. They are beautiful writers. Both are very high favorites at Mysterious Galaxy. I swear the quote from the beginning, that was straight from our Slack channel. Like, we are so excited about this whole series. Everybody loves it. And yes, please, everybody stay safe, get vaccinated. Virtual event or in-person events are returning. They are coming. We have had a couple, and we hope to keep having them as 2022 begins. So please, everybody, stay safe.
I need to be hugged. Let's go.
Yes,
seriously, everybody stay safe over the holidays.
Your hug, I want you to be ready for it, Nikki. It's going to be...
Oh, I'm ready. I'm a hug connoisseur, I'll say.
It's going to be a fierce hug, okay?
I got to see my friend who's the best hugger yesterday, and we're both vaccinated, so we got hugs. All right. On that note, I hope that you both have a wonderful night. Tell Penny had some great cameos. Good job. And
please tell her she's my favorite troll.
I will tell her. She'll be happy to hear that.
All right. And everybody have a lovely weekend.
You
Happy Friday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.